Can a comment, a gap in the formation lap and an invisible pressure define an entire championship? What happens within a team when a component that worked in simulations, wind tunnels, and track tests ends up failing just when it matters most? How does that impact future decision-making? This disqualification changes something more than the result on paper. It installs fear. That fear makes teams raise their feet, be more conservative in their settings, and protect themselves from risk. And that invisible domino effect can change the technical development of the car for the rest of the year. The night in Las Vegas promised an unforgettable spectacle, but what happened after the checkered flag exceeded any expectations. The disqualification of both McLaren Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri not only disrupted the results of the Grand Prix, but also unleashed an earthquake in the championship. It wasn't a collision. It was not a flagrant violation. It was a microscopic, almost invisible technical failure. But in Formula One, precision is not optional. It is the law. It all started a few hours after the race ended, when the cars were subjected to routine technical inspections by the FIA. The review focused on a specific point on the car: the skid blocks, known as skid blocks, located at the bottom of the chassis just in front of the rear diffuser. These parts have a key function. They ensure that the car does not drive too close to the ground, protect the integrity of the flat bottom, and act as a physical reference for the technical regulations to limit the extreme use of ground effect. The regulation requires that the minimum thickness of these skates be 9 millimeters. In the case of Norris's car, the technicians found a deviation of 0.12 millimeters. In Piastri, the violation was 0.26 millimeters. Both values are below the minimum allowed. A measurement comparable to the thickness of a human hair may seem irrelevant, but in F1, that tiny margin can mean an unintended downforce advantage or an unforgiving penalty. McLaren argued that the excess wear was unintentional. Andrea Stella, team leader, explained that both cars suffered an unexpected level of porpoising during the race, that vertical bounce that appears at high speed due to the intermittent collapse of the airflow under the car. This phenomenon did not manifest itself with that intensity either in the practice sessions or in the classification. The cause? A dangerous combination of factors. On the one hand, the limited filming time due to the red flags on Thursday. On the other hand, the rain on Friday, which completely altered the asphalt conditions. And to complete the cocktail, McLaren later discovered minor structural damage to the floor, probably the result of excessive touching or vibration, which increased the movement of the bottom. All of this, according to the team, caused a more aggressive contact of the skate with the ground. But before the FIA technical court, emotional arguments or circumstances are not valid. The measurements are absolute. There are no margins of error. The regulation is clear. If the car does not comply, it must be excluded. The driver's voice revealed more than frustration. It showed that Verstappen had already achieved what he was looking for. As Norris complained, his focus drifted. His mental preparation for the departure was broken. The technical gave way to the emotional. And meanwhile, Verstappen was dedicated to what was important: warming up the tires aggressively. He executed 5 intense burnouts, maximizing tire temperature. Norris, caught up in his anger, made only 3. That difference, seemingly trivial, would be decisive seconds later. Red lights. The traffic light goes out. And Norris, obsessed with covering Max, brakes later than he should. Enter past turn 1. It opens. Lose the line. Lose position. And not only against Verstappen, also before George Russell. In just 200 meters, Lando had gone from being the leader to being third. The race was slipping through his fingers. All because of a mistake born of anxiety. An anxiety meticulously sown by his rival. The extraordinary thing is that Verstappen did not say a single word. He did not need loud statements or theatrical gestures. It was the language of total control. He used the formation turn, a moment normally irrelevant to the viewer, as a strategic weapon. And it worked. Norris admitted it bluntly at the end of the race. "I let Max win." A phrase as brutal as it is revealing. It wasn't the car. It wasn't the strategy. It was the mind. This episode is just another chapter in Verstappen's evolution as a strategic predator. He is no longer just the aggressive driver of his early years. It has become a scenario builder, and a generator of other people's errors. And he does it without getting his hands dirty. He does not need to push for the opponent to fall. You just have to be there, behind, in silence, waiting for the other to stumble. What happened in Las Vegas was no coincidence. It was the reflection of a driver who understands the game on a deeper level. Who knows that in modern Formula One, speed is only the basis. The real difference is made in the margins, in the mental, in the invisible, in what is not measured with a stopwatch but that decides races. And while McLaren dealt with the technical devastation, Verstappen had sown an even more lethal doubt. Can his rivals withstand the pressure, not only on the asphalt but in the mind? What happened in Las Vegas was not just a one-time shock. It was a seismic alteration of the championship order. Until that moment, Lando Norris seemed to have control of the World Cup. His consistent performance, victory in Australia and back-to-back podium finishes had placed him as the natural favorite, not just on points but on form. McLaren was the fastest car of the year, and Norris the most solid driver. But Formula One is not just about form. It's about resistance. And Las Vegas broke the narrative. With the disqualification of both McLarens, Max Verstappen immediately put himself in an attacking position. From seemingly out of reach, he became just a few points off the lead. And even more important, with morale on the rise. Because Verstappen didn't just win one race. He won a strategic battle. He exposed weaknesses of his rivals. And he regained control of the conversation. Now, with only 2 Grands Prix left in Qatar and Abu Dhabi, the championship has become a 3-way fight. Lando Norris, Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri are separated by such a narrow margin that each track position can change the final order. And what once seemed like a controlled ride by McLaren has now become an open war. But there is something deeper at play here, the mental state of the protagonists. Norris had been building a narrative of promotion, from being the eternal promise to becoming the new benchmark. But in Las Vegas that script fractured. Not only because of the disqualification, but because of how he was psychologically surpassed by Verstappen. For the first time this season he showed emotional weakness, a fissure that the Dutchman is not going to let pass. In Piastri's case, the damage is double. The Australian was building his title candidacy from the shadows, with increasingly strong performances. In China he had been second and in Japan third. His progression was firm without errors. But the disqualification has left him in a complex situation. Although he is still in the fight, he needs perfect results, and a mistake from his 2 rivals. The technical battle is also intense. Red Bull, although it has lost ground to McLaren in terms of aerodynamic evolution, has found performance on high-temperature tracks, as expected in Qatar. McLaren, for its part, needs a reaction. He needs to show that Las Vegas was an anomaly, not the beginning of a debacle. Because if the problems of wear and floor oscillations are repeated, any more error, no matter how small, can be lethal. But it's not all mechanics. The 2025 championship has entered its final stretch not only as a points race, but as a storytelling competition. Whoever controls the story, whoever emotionally dominates his rivals, will have the advantage. And for now, Verstappen has the lead in that area too. The immediate future is clear. Qatar will be the first exam. A technical, demanding circuit with medium-high aerodynamic load and high degradation. There it will be seen if McLaren can resurface, or if Verstappen will finish completing his perfect ambush. The World Cup is at stake. Trust to. And what began as a season of consolidation for McLaren has ended up becoming a brutal test of character. F1 never forgives comfort. And Las Vegas has just remembered it in the cruelest way possible. Now that you've seen how a microscopic detail ruined McLaren's weekend, how Max Verstappen carried out a psychological attack without touching anyone, and how the championship took a radical turn in a single night, it's time to look forward with deeper reflection. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.